Somewhere to lie down.
That's right.
So live performing at the moment is completely
Out
out
of the question at the moment.
But one of the things I noted, and we live near each other, Greg and myself, and we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, predating, I guess, just when he started the Wiggles, our sons
right.
went to school together, and they're young men now.
That's right.
I might
That's
mention
scary.
that they seem to run into each other at various hotels, I hear
Yeah.
from time to time.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not nice they've still got that friendship, even though they're 19-year-olds these days.
That's right.
But I saw you originally at the pub and you're having a meal, you're sitting there by yourself and then with some friends, and I said to Suzanne, I didn't know anything about your condition, orthostatic intolerance, and I said, I think there's something more wrong with Greg because he just doesn't seem to be able to get up, he can't seem to talk to anyone, he can't seem to... But that's how it manifests itself in the early stages without any treatment.
Oh, yeah.
You just cannot. I mean, it's an effort to walk from that table to this table and to actually talk to someone.
Yeah, it is. And one of the problems is because of the lack of blood flow around your body, it gets very difficult to actually have a conversation with people because you can't really concentrate very well. Like at the moment, I'm having a bit of trouble too, Ray, I must say.
Yeah.
It's hard to think about what I want to say and get the words out properly. And it became a real... I guess a self-conscious thing of, not wanting to seem like you're stupid, that people think, gee, what's wrong with this guy? He can't even have a conversation. He's saying stupid things. And, it became very, I became very self-conscious about it. Yeah. And that was very hard. Like,
did that stop you going out?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'd turn down a lot of invites to social things because I just, particularly with people that didn't know me very well, that were meeting me for the first time, I didn't want them to come away with a funny view of me. But with people that knew and kind of understood, then it wasn't so bad.
It's funny, on a personal level, when we had dinner that night, Sue said, we should ask Greg to come out a little bit more. And I said, well, I think it might be a problem. If we ring and say, come out to dinner with us or come up the pub and have a feed, that he may feel compelled to come when in fact he doesn't feel well enough to come. Yeah. I said, let's just leave it so that when we see him up there, we'll invite him to join us. And then we know he's okay because he's there, And I mean, you shouldn't be leading the life of a hermit. You've got two beautiful children.
Yeah.
You've got, people, your family who care about you.
Yeah.
But it must be, I still don't know, and you said earlier you haven't come to terms with it now, how you go from being this, not just a superstar in Australia, I mean, Wiggles are worldwide. And I'm not talking about the adoration that goes with it, but just the satisfaction that goes with being successful and having a life that you've achieved, and simply because some cruel sort of hand of fate deals you this card and says, guess what, Greg, you've got orthostatic intolerance, you can't work anymore at what you love.
Yeah, I know. That's
very frustrating.
Yeah, incredibly frustrating. But look, I think I've been very fortunate in my life, up until this point, and I do have a great future ahead of me regardless of whatever's happened in the past. And I think that anybody that's dealt one of those cards in life that puts adversity in front of you, it's how you choose to deal with that adversity that really sets you apart and paves the way for your future. So I have been fortunate in being able to reflect on the good things from my past and bring those things with me as I walk into the future. So, I've got a very bright future no matter what I do. I think you make your own luck in some ways, and I intend doing that from this point forward.
Well, let's talk about the future, because when we first spoke about having a yarn, you said you wanted to do something with Women's Day because you wanted to make people aware of what you have, orthostatic intolerance, so that bosses wouldn't say to plumbers and electricians and the rest of it, orthostatic intolerance, good luck.
Yeah,
if you want a week off, just tell us you want a week off. Don't bludge on me. You get back to work, so that when someone is diagnosed, there's a realisation in the community that it's not a malingerer's ailment, that it is quite serious. But also you want to set up this Greg Page Research Fund with the help of the Baker Heart Research Institute. Where are you up to with that? Yeah,
the fund is set up and it's ready for donations right now. So I've been very, I guess, honoured or privileged that they've allowed me to lend my name to this fund to create more awareness so that they can get funding for the research that they're doing into orthostatic intolerance. Because as you say, so many people had never heard of it. I'd never heard of it. It's really important for the doctors to understand it as well. So with more research funding, they'll be able to find out more about it and help people that suffer from it, as well as bring more attention to it in the public arena as well.
Okay. Where are you up to with the doctor? Is it a weekly thing, monthly thing?
No, it's like 6 monthly at the moment.
A check-up of that.
Yeah.
And do they? And from the lady that I spoke to and other people who've suffered, does that give you some hope that eventually you'll get to the stage in your life with management, with proper diet, and with medication that you can resume doing what your first love is, and that's entertaining.
Yeah, I'd love, I do have hope that that will happen, and I don't discount that. I just know it's going to be a bit of a longer road than I thought. I had thought that earlier this year I might have been ready to do some live performance, but, I started, just singing casually, having a couple of singing lessons, and, I could tell that it was just not going to happen as soon as I thought. So patience is the key with this kind of thing.
And is that what everyone tells you? It's just one day something will click and you'll be feeling, not 100%, but you'll get it closer to it.
Yeah, well, I am closer to it. I mean, back, in November 06, when I retired from the group, I would have been probably 35%, back then 40%. I was using a walking stick to get around, and I just didn't want to go out. I couldn't get out. I had no energy. Now I reckon I'm 85% now, so I'm getting much closer to where I want to be physically, and my health's on the improve, so I'm very grateful.
It's a fantastic attitude you have. Wonderful attitude. I'm looking forward to coming to your place in the foreseeable future. Greg is a bit of an aficionado when it comes to Elvis Presley and has assembled the most unbelievable collection of Elvis memorabilia. And I love Elvis, as I've told you before, and I've got an old mate of mine, George the Boilermaker, I'm going to bring up. He loves Elvis as well.
Good.
Where did that start, the love of Elvis?
Really?
As a child, or as a
No, later in life, actually. When I went to Graceland for the first time, the Wiggles were touring in the US, and we were in Memphis, and I thought, I'll go to Graceland. I knew who Elvis was. I knew about his songs, about his movies, but didn't know much about the man himself. So when I went through his home, which is now a museum, found out more about his life and where he'd come from, what he did with his money, what he did with his time, the kind of person he was, and just thought it was an amazing story. So I started collecting things that used to belong to Elvis: clothing, jewellery, books, furniture. And, my ultimate dream would be to set up a museum here in Australia for people to come and experience the same kind of thing.
How do you assemble that? Do you go on Google and say things that belong to Elvis or something like that?
Look, I think initially...
Are there collectors all over the world?
Yeah, there's collectors all over the place. Initially, I was just on eBay one day, and I came across a pair of boots that belonged to Elvis, and I bought them. I won the auction. I don't know that you ever win anything because it costs you money, but I won the auction.
They're not for free.
No,
They're
that's
not for
right.
PayPal. Yeah, exactly.
So, I won that, and then I just got in touch with the guy who sold that and various other collectors. So I've got quite a large collection now.
Fantastic. I look forward to seeing it. I also appreciate the fact that you've come in to have a yarn to me, and I would commend to people to have a look at Women's Day this week and read about exactly what happened to Greg from late 2006 into the current day. And I'd also advise you to go to Greg's website, gregpage.com, and there's a link there to the Baker Heart Research Institute, and you can read a bit more about it. And all of a sudden, orthostatic intolerance is an illness that we know a whole lot more about. Unfortunately, it's because someone so prominent as yourself contracted that illness. But it's nice to know that other people can benefit by your suffering to a certain extent.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I'm kind of through the worst of it now, and I'm really grateful for that. And there is hope for people that do suffer from it, with the right care and the right advice from their doctors and physicians, that they can come out the other side as well and get back to some sort of normality. All
right, mate. I'll see you at the pub, and I'll see you up home for the Elvis inspection.
Good on you, mate.
Greg Page, and fighting his way back. It's a wonderful story of someone who's so resilient and so brave. He's confronted an illness that perhaps would have floored most other people, but he's on his way back.